Hello, welcome back to Laura Talks. Um, Sorry it's been a while without new content, but as I said in the last update video, I recently graduated from college, so now I actually have some free time. So I am at home right now. The lighting is a little bit better than my dorm, which is nice. You will occasionally see my cats. I don't know if you can see them right now, but you'll occasionally see my cats in the background. Um, just ignore them. I might do a video introducing you guys to all of them at some point if you guys are interested. But today we will be talking about The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I really like this book. The series. I just finished rereading it today, so hopefully it's all fresh in my mind. We will do a little bit of comparison between the book and the movie. Um, but the focus is mainly going to be the book. Um, so, the book was first published in 2008, I believe, and then the movie in 2012. Um, and for those of you who haven't read the book or seen the movie, it focuses on mainly Katniss Everdeen, but also like Peeta Mellark. And so the whole Hunger Games as a concept, um, it's this dystopian future. There was some kind of maybe a nuclear war, I think, and it basically destroyed the countries as we know it. And then I think all of North America kind of came back together and created this country called Panem. And originally there were 13 districts, um, but 74 years ago, one of them, District 13, rebelled, and there's this huge war, and District 13 ended up being destroyed. And then the year after, they started the Hunger Games as a way for the capital, which is, the government, to remind the districts that the capital is actually in control. And so what happens is each of the districts um, reap a child from the ages of 12 to 18, and they get one female and one male. And then they send these kids off to fight in an arena to the death. And of course, they spin it as like a way to bring glory to your district and your family, and if you win, if you're the last survivor, your family will have food and you'll be safe. And um they spin it as like a positive thing, that if you win the Hunger Games, it's this an amazing thing. But it is also a way to keep the districts in line, because if the capital can take two of your kids each year, what else could they do to you if they want? Um, so in the Hunger Games, Kat, it's written from Katniss's point of view. Um, and she is, I believe, 16. So the first couple chapters are her, like, kind of living life in District 12, which is a coal mining district, and it's basically the poorest, although most of the lower districts are also pretty poor. District 1, 2, and 3 I think would probably be the richest, because I think they do like fashion and stuff for the capital. So, and the capital is like actually the richest. Like only the rich and top of the top live and work in the capital. Um, so Katniss is from District 12, and she's from the Seam, which is like the poor part of District 12. And she's a hunter. She learned how to hunt after her father died, and she basically kept her family alive um, during that time period. And she's a really good hunter. She uses a bow and arrow, and it mentions at one point in the book that she always kills her squirrels right through the eye, which, if you know anything about hunting, it's always better to kill the animal without damaging the internal organs, because like the intestines and stuff could like damage the meat and make it less sellable and stuff. Um, but um, the book starts like close to the reaping time, and it explains some of the rules. Like when you turn 12, your name is only put in once, so there's a very low chance of 12-year-olds being picked, but it does still happen. And then each year, your name gets added in once more. So if you're 13, it's in twice, 14, it's in 3 times. But after you turn 12, you can also, I forget what the specific word for it is, but you can basically ask for extra rations from the government for your name to be put in an extra time. And obviously, most of the poor people do this. Katniss also did this because she had to help her family survive. And it's only like grain and oil, but still, any food is extra food and it will help your family survive. Um, and so, this Hunger Games, Katniss's little sister Prim is 12, and it's the first time she's going to be in the reaping. So clearly, she's nervous about it, because she's a very gentle person, and um she wouldn't survive the Hunger Games. Um, but Katniss calms her down and says it's okay. Your name's only been in once. You're not gonna get picked. But then it is picked. And Katniss has this moment of panic, and I can't lose my little sister, and she volunteers. Um, and it's this, you wouldn't expect anything else from Katniss. Everything she's done is, sorry, there's cat hair on my lips. Everything she's done, everything she talks about is about how she can protect her family, how she can protect her little sister and her mother. So it's no surprise that she would volunteer for Prim. Um, and she does. And then the boy tribute is Peeta Malark, who is the baker's son. And um, there's a lot that happens in the books. And I don't want to like spoil the other books if you haven't read them yet. But what I'll say is in this book, Katniss is not thinking about rebellion. There are other characters that are, like Haymitch and Cinna, her stylist. Haymitch is a previous victor who um, is a mentor to um, the tributes each year. That's what the kids who are chosen are called. They're the tributes. Haymitch and Cinna are definitely thinking about rebellion a little bit at times in the book, but Katniss isn't. Even though she is very aware of the Capitol and what she thinks the Capitol would want, like the entire time while she's in the arena at the Hunger Games, she's thinking about whether or not the cameras are on her and how it will look to all of Panem, and if I do this, will I get a sponsor? If I show them that I can hunt and I can find water and I'm smart, will I be more likely to get a sponsor? She very much understands how the Capitol thinks and how the Capitol works, at least in some parts of it. Um, she's only 16, she's not a political strategist or anything, but she definitely has a very good grasp of the Capitol and what they want from the tributes. Because it's a way to keep the districts in line, but it's also entertainment from the for the capital, and they want a good show. Um, and the added potential romance between her and PETA, um, it it starts during one of the pre-interviews with Caesar Flickerman. He's the Hunger Games host. And in one of the interviews with PETA, PETA admits that he has a crush on Katniss. And of course, Katniss gets pissed. She's like, "Why would you say that about me? How dare you? I don't even know you." But, of course, Haymitch is like, "Hey, this is a good thing. It makes you seem desirable." And then from that point on, they decide to basically milk it for all it's worth. And they're called the Star-Crossed Lovers of District 12. Um, and they play it up the entire time before the Hunger Games. But then once they get in the arena, Katniss kind of like forgets about it. Kind of. She more like doesn't worry about it as much because there can only be one victor. Um, that's the rules of the game, the last survivor. So she kind of just tries to kind of not think about PETA because she needs to focus on surviving. Um, and I am going to like talk about the entire book, so including the ending. So if you haven't read it or seen the movies, um, you might want to maybe stop now. But I do suggest reading the book. Um, so there's a lot that happens in the arena in the Hunger Games. One of my favorite moments is that whole tracker jacker scene where she like kind of it starts her teaming up with Rue. So basically, she is stuck up in a tree because the careers, that's what people from the upper level districts are called, because they're trained from a young age to volunteer in the reaping. Um, and it's basically like a higher chance for their district to win and their district to have like wealth and stuff. Um, and the careers and PETA have all like kind of cornered Katniss in a tree, and they camp out underneath the tree, and Katniss is stuck in the tree, but then Rue, who is a 12-year-old from District 11, um, sneaks over and points out a tracker jacker nest, um, which brings us to another thing about the Capitol. During the war with District 13, they engineered animals to help them fight the war. Like they engineered tracker jackers, which have a special venom that make you hallucinate. And also if you get stung more than like 2 or 3 times, almost everyone will die. And they also engineered mockingjays, which can copy. No, I don't think they engineered mockingjays. Um, They engineered jabberjays, that's the word. They engineered jabberjays, which are birds that could actually like mimic human speech, and they used them to try and spy on the rebels. It didn't work out so well, so they kind of just abandoned the effort. But then the jabberjays, I think bred with mockingbirds. Yeah, they bred with mockingbirds, so then their offspring is called mocking jays, and they can really well mimic songs really well. And that'll be relevant in another part of the discussion. But Katniss is in a tree. Rue points out the tracker jacker nest, and it's a really good opportunity for her to take out some of her competition. And this is where the book and the movie kind of differ because they both have the same scene. But in the book, Katniss gets like 3/4 of the way through the sawing off the branch because nest is kind of out on a branch, so she has to saw the entire branch off. She gets about 3/4 of the way through the branch, stops for the night, and then in the morning goes up and finishes it. And in the movie, she just kind of does it all at once. And it makes sense why they would do that in the movie. Movies have like a limited time frame and to show everything. And the important thing is that she does drop the tracker jacker nest on the careers, and I think she kills like 2 or 3 of them. Um, and then she is also able to escape, but she does get stung. And as she climbs down from the tree, um, PETA comes running back and like shouts at her to run, and she's just like, "Why? I thought he had um, abandoned me. I thought he had like given up on me. He joined the careers. Why is he saying this?" But she does run. And then later she meets up with Rue, and this is another part that differs in the books to the movies. In the movies, she wakes up and Rue is already there and has already put the leaves like on her stings and everything. Um, in the movies, in the book, she does like pass out for a little bit. Um, but then I think she comes across Rue and then offers to be allies and also gives her some food. And that's when Rue like does the whole thing with the leaves to draw out the venom from the tracker jacker stings. Um so that's slightly different, but they do team up. And then it's actually the way Rue dies is really sad. So the careers have all of the food from the cornucopia, which is where all of the tributes start at the beginning of the Hunger Games. They start in a circle around the cornucopia, which has a bunch of supplies, weapons, food, water, jackets and clothing and stuff. Um, and it's always a bloodbath. So Katniss had only grabbed a backpack before she ran away, which is a smart thing to do. But the careers had taken control of the cornucopia, and so they had all the food. So Katniss and Rue come up with a plan to destroy the food, because that's the easiest way to kill people. You can get rid of their food, then they'll be hungrier, they'll be weaker, they'll be easier to kill. And also if they don't have like the water purifying stuff, they might drink bad water and die from that. Um, so Rue sets a couple fires and then builds a third fire and is supposed to also light that, while Katniss um, destroys the food. And at first, she isn't sure how she's going to do that because it's all like piled up. Um, and she wants to steal some of it, but it kind of seems like a trap. And it turns out it is. And the only reason she notices it's a trap is because another tribute, Foxface, goes in and kind of jumps around on certain spots to get to this food, and then she only steals like a little bit before jumping back. And Katniss does some mental math, and in the book she actually goes and looks at the platforms and notices that all the mines that are around the platforms have been dug up. So she realizes that they put mines around the food, in the case that if someone comes to steal it, hopefully they'll get blown up, and that's one less person for them to kill. So she shoots a bag of apples and opens it, and the apples fall and set off the mines. And in the book, the explosion actually severely harms her left ear and makes her deaf for a while. I don't think that happens in the movies. Um, if it does, they kind of just gloss over it. And there's a lot of things about the brutality of the Hunger Games that they kind of gloss over in the movies. They kind of focus more on the romance, which is a very Hollywood thing to do, and also kind of plays into the social commentary of the Hunger Games. But after she blows it up, she goes and she tries to find Rue, and she doesn't find Rue where she's supposed to be. So she goes and checks on that third fire, and it hasn't been lit yet. So she tries to find Rue, and she does find her, but Rue is caught in a net. And then Rue gets stabbed in the gut by another tribute. And of course, Katniss, her gut reaction is the, you know, right reaction because it allows her to survive. And she shoots the other tribute. And then she stays with Rue as Rue dies, and she sings to her. And she also, after Rue dies, she says, in the book, she says it looks like Rue is like a little animal asleep in the nest of the net, and she can't just leave her there like that. So she picks a whole bunch of flowers and surrounds the body and covers the wound and makes it look like Rue is actually asleep. And that is just really um sorry, I forgot the word I was about to say. It's really heart touching. That's not the right phrase. It's very sweet, and it's also a little gut wrenching because um in the midst of all this chaos and trauma, Katniss is still a human, and she holds on to her humanity, and she says, "I have to do better. I can't just be a killing machine. I can't just be a monster, and I have to be who I am." And um she gives Rue the most respect that she can in that moment, in that arena. Um and I really think that says a lot about who she is. Um she saw Prim in Rue, and if that had been Prim that had died, she would want someone to do something similar. So that's what she did. And yeah, I really like that scene. Um and then short so obviously they're still in the arena. Um I think shortly after that, um I think there's some more stuff that happens in between, but after a bit, the game makers, the people who actually like control the Hunger Games and stuff, announce a rule revision, which is that two tributes can win if they're from the same district. So now Katniss actually starts thinking about Peeta again and tries to find him. And she does find him, but he's been severely injured from the fight with the careers during the Tracker Jacker scene. Um, so she actually like nurses him back to health, and here she actually has to start pretending to be a star-crossed lover again. And I think she genuinely does fall in love with him, but um it's kind of a situational love. Like they're both helping each other survive the brutality of the Hunger Games. And then they do end up winning. Um, but when they're the last two tributes, um, the game makers say that the rule has been revised and revoked, so there can only be one winner. But Peeta is still super injured at this point, and he's if he was just left alone, he would die. Um, And Katniss, she can't bring herself to kill him. I mean, she spent probably a solid week nursing him back to health and, caring about him and falling in love with him, and she can't just kill him. So they take out some poison berries and they say it was actually Katniss's idea, and she says, we'll eat it on three together. And of course, the hope is that they'll say both of you win, and they do. But the capital gets, well, not the capital, people, but like the actual government gets super mad at that because she not only won the Hunger Games, um, she did something she wasn't supposed to do. There wasn't ever supposed to be two winners. Um, and um, she basically manipulated them and made them seem weak. And of course, the government can't have that. So, um, you know, Haymitch actually like tips her off to this before the post arena interviews, and he says, you're in danger, you need to play this up. And I think it's revealed in one of the further books, but Haymitch is in a very special. He had been in a similar situation after his Hunger Games. He defied the government and had all of his family and everyone he cared about killed. So he's trying to prevent that from happening with Katniss. And she is able to play up like the star-crossed lovers thing, and um she she makes almost everyone believe that they are actually in love. Um but then in the end of the book, when they're on the train home, um she ends up telling Peeta about what Haymitch said. And of course, Peeta is like, "So you were pretending this entire time? Did you ever actually care about me?" And Katniss says, "Yes, but it's so confusing because back in District 12, she has another really good friend named Gale. And of course, the movies also focus more on this love triangle. But I don't think she ever really loved Gale, and if she did, it was a different kind of love because they both helped each other survive. They both hunted together. They would split whatever they caught. Um, so, it's Katniss has a lot to think about in the next books. Um, and I want to go back to the movies kind of glossing over the brutality of the Hunger Games, um, because in the books, um, right after they get taken out of the arena, Peeta, obviously, he's super injured. He's taken away right away into surgery. And Katniss is like banging on the door between them. And there's a moment where she catches sight of herself, like her reflection. And she says it's like wild, feral, rabid eyes and hollow cheeks and matted hair. And there's another moment later on when she's with her team, um, and she's like skin and bones. And this is after a couple of days of having, you know, actually eating good food in the capital, but she can still like count her ribs. Um, and another thing, um, so the fact that the movies kind of glossed over all of that pairs really well with the social commentary that I think Suzanne Collins was trying to make, which is that if something is for entertainment, no one, well, most people don't care how it's made, how it's done. I mean, just look at the writer's strike going on. They're asking for payment and residuals, and most people didn't never knew about like the horrible conditions for making TV shows and making movies. They just care that I get a new season every year and the character plots are good and it's filmed well. They don't care about the people making the art, making their entertainment. And um, that's really shown in the Hunger Games. Um, Another little thing about the Hunger Games, um, everyone in the Capitol has some kind of like fakeness about them. You know, like plastic surgery is just so normalized, and they were actually gonna do it to Katniss to, you know, make her more curvy and look more adult because they don't want to, like, if people realize that, like, these are literal children being sent to the Hunger Games, there might be a rebellion, which of course they can't have another rebellion. Um, and they actually did do, like, some plastic surgery to her, like, after the arena, she woke up on, like, a strapped down to a table with, like, tubes and medicinal stuff. And she notices that, like, over time, over the next couple of days, all of her scars disappear. And it's possible that they just have medicine that is that good, but what's more likely is that they did something surgically to remove all of those imperfections to make her look like the perfect victor that she is. Um, because obviously, if the government can control something, they will control something. Um, and I'm sure there is some social commentary in that, you know, can't I'm not the best at like connecting dots between social commentary and actual society. What often happens is I read something online about how a book was and an author was pointing this out about society, and then I think about it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. They were pointing that out. Um, but I really like this series. I like the books. I like the movies. I think I actually saw the movies before I read the books. But they're both good. I highly suggest you give it a read or give it a watch. You know, if a book series has a movie series that's slightly different, I'm of the opinion that you can enjoy both of them separately. Um, so I think I'm gonna keep reading this series. Um, I'll probably It might be a while. I don't know if I'll be able to get into a set schedule of producing videos soon. Um, I will be moving soon to a new job, so that will also take time and, you know, energy from me. But I will try and, you know, keep creating videos and keep talking to you guys. So, um, have a good day, and may the odds be ever in your favor.